Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of True Philadelphian Sportscast, The Grittiest Take. This is our first ever video segment with the great Steel Flyers, who has graced us with his presence on the last few podcasts. And Steel, how you doing this night?
I'm doing, man. I'm doing great. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. It's been a good day. I got to write some articles. I put out a video, so I did what I love doing. So it's been a good day, and the weather
Yeah,
was hot today, but fairly decent. So
yeah. A little breeze came through, and a little birdie came by, and
yeah, he's got the Flyers mitt. Check out the
yeah,
check out the website. I write for them. Jamie Pascal's amazing.
yeah.
Who's going to join us for a podcast soon as well for this edition of what we're doing tonight, which is looking at the play-in rounds from a different perspective of what the percentage chance is that teams could upset the better opponent in the first round. Obviously, some of these are probably going to have a 2 to 5% chance, and then others will have a high. Because some teams, I'm sure we're going to look at and say, yeah, no, not really, no.
Yeah, and plus
But
the 8-9 plus the 8-9 ones. Those are too close to call.
yeah, no, those are very close to call. There's one that you could potentially argue, and I'll see where it goes, but that it could be a minor upset for a particular reason. But we'll see where we go when we get there.
Could be. Yeah, it could be.
But anyway, let us start with one of the hated teams in Philadelphia because the question here is we also kind of want them to win the play-in as Flyers fans because we don't want Pittsburgh to have a chance to get the first overall pick. So, but with that being said, I think the main question here is unless if Gallagher and Drouin really step up, how much of a chance do you think Carey Price can upset the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Oh man, I don't think there's going to be much of a chance. Even if Carey Price plays really well and their defense steps up really well, and more importantly, their transition game, because that's where the Penguins can hurt you, is the transition game. And if Montreal can step up and prevent Pittsburgh from getting like a free ride into the zone, you know what I mean? Then I think they have a chance. And if Price plays really, really well, and if their backup goalie plays really, really well, because let's face it, there's going to be a lot of people playing, especially that first round, because we're knocking rust off, and they're allowed to bring what? Unlimited, how 31 players they're bringing?
Yeah, I think it's 28, and then the goaltenders that usually bring
4.
I guess it might be 20, 32 total with goaltenders.
32, yeah, okay. I think it's like 4 goaltenders, I think.
Yeah, so it's either 31 with 4 goaltenders, which would make it 27 players, or 32.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the only chance I think Montreal has, and although that be a 2 or /5% chance of that actually happening, and or unless Pittsburgh decides to pull a, hey, we're going out to get Sidney Crosby, or hey, we're going out to get Murray or whatever, and if they pull one of those, then Montreal's going to win it. But I don't think that's the case. And I don't think Sullivan's that kind of coach. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think that's the case either. I think he's also a pretty good head coach where Montreal's issue isn't their coaching, it's their roster. Their roster's not deep.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I think that they're a team that unless if Carey Price really steps up, and as they say, the price is right, they're not going to win the play-in round, which is now considered a playoff round, according to dialogue of the NHL, where before we didn't know if this was actually going to be considered an actual playoff round or if it was going to be considered not counting. But if you look at the language, it's actually considered you are in a playoff series.
Because it's the best of 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And where the games like the Flyers and the Capitals and Tampa Bay and Boston are playing, that's the round robin where we're just playing one game against each team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think we talked about this the last time we did this, where no matter what happens, the only guys that are going to play potentially 2 extra games are going to be the guys that are in the best of 5 series. Because if they have to play out the whole series, then they're going to play an extra 2 games.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. But I completely agree with the fact that Price, the Canadians were not that great coming into the list. They were 4-5, so they would need Price to really step up. That's a 2 to 5% chance.
You'll see. There you go. 2 to 5% chance. Yep, I'm with you on that. 100%.
Now let's go to the other Western Conference 5 versus 12 matchup, which is the Edmonton Oilers versus the Chicago Blackhawks, the experienced Chicago Blackhawks. So I'll say experience normally helps in most cases. Now, granted, if Patrick Kane goes off in the playoffs and matches McDavid and Draisaitl, that's a thing. And then you got DeBrincat. You got guys that might be able to match them that didn't fully step up to their peak value this year. But that's more of a big if for Chicago. But I would say it's probably higher than a 2 to 5% chance for that one just because of their experience. I would give that more of a 5 to 8% chance that Chicago, because they have a goaltender that's been in the postseason, that's done it before. They have Patrick Kane, who can kind of just take over some games. Tays also had another good year.
And he has playoff experience too.
Yeah, he has playoff experience. So does Heath. Hasn't had the best year, but he's coming off a rest and has playoff experience. So I think that has to get above a 5% chance, but I don't think it's hefty above a 5% chance. I just think it's above a 5% chance. That's kind of where I'm at with that, because when you look at them, DeBrincat would have to kind of step up more to match what the two-headed horse of Edmonton in McDavid and Draisaitl, where Kane and Tays isn't any necessarily that two-headed horse type of player anymore. He's just still really good, where Kane is still that monster.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, look, and one of the things, look, I agree with what you're saying, but one of the things you didn't mention was the fact that they're playing in Edmonton. And I think that is going to play into this. I don't care what anybody says. I'm saying it. This is my opinion only. But Edmonton is going to get some kind of an advantage for playing in Edmonton, and I think Toronto is also going to get some kind of advantage playing in Toronto. And you can't tell me that there's not going to be some kind of an advantage for playing in your own home locker, for playing in your own home building. You know the boards, you know how the dashers are going to react, you know how the puck's going to react when it bounces off the glass, all that kind of stuff that is, that people don't talk about and people don't think about that. That's going to be an advantage. And any kind of advantage you think that Chicago is going to have, I think, is going to be because you're only going 5 to 8% on that advantage or a percentage on them coming back. You know what I mean? So I just don't.
I also went with that because if you look at Edmonton, they don't have the deepest scoring. They
don't.
Top-heavy scoring, where Chicago obviously also doesn't have the deepest scoring, but Brandon Saad can score for you a little bit. DeBrincat hasn't fully stepped up, like I said. So if he has had a good year, but if he becomes the beast he should be in the playoffs, that's a different thing. Nylander hasn't been that good. If he can really play well for you, that kind of matches. They have guys that when you look at their skill set, when it goes deeper, is better than Edmonton's third line skill set. The problem is the Edmonton's third line played better with lesser names. That's kind of like they played better with like the Cassians, like having the Zach
Yeah.
Cassians of the world on their team, and the Alex Chasons of the world on their team, and even Kiara struggling and all that, and James Neal only starting off good and then not doing so great. So, like, they're a team that their offense is carried by the top, but Chicago's is too. But they have, when you look at their guys that haven't fully peaked, and Edmonton really has a guy that I love in Yamamoto who hasn't fully peaked yet. But other than him, they don't have the youngsters that you're like, oh damn, yeah, they can.
Yeah. Plus,
but,
and plus I think too that Chicago is a little bit more
8% chance.
Yeah. What I mean is, I think that Edmonton is a little thicker through the defensive side as well. Yeah, So I'm just briefly looking here, and there's one guy that's under 200 pounds. So I mean that's a pretty big defense to try to blow through, and so it's going to be difficult to get through because, especially with everybody coming back healthy, and with McDavid and Draisaitl, man, that is just so dynamic.
I just gave it an 8% chance too because of goaltending. If you look at their stats, actually Crawford played 40 games, and he actually had 2.77 goals against with a 9.17. And then if you go in contrast and look at Koskinen, I was surprised how close it was actually because of Chicago's struggle on defense.
Yeah,
he played 38 games and had a 2.75 with a same 9.17. So they were very similar, which when you take it to the fact that Chicago has a more inconsistent struggling defense.
Yeah.
Have a more experienced goalie. That's why that's been in the playoffs. That's why I had to give them at least an 8% chance.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll buy the 8%. I'll buy that. I'll go along with the 8%. But I don't think it's going to be just like I don't think it's going to be
percentage though. It's not like
it's not. Yeah. It really isn't. But it's still though. It's not like I just don't think it's going to be. It's going to be a different game because I think that Edmonton is definitely going to have an advantage, and I feel the same way about Toronto, and I know that Columbus has played really well, and Tortorella, and blah 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 blah. But I just man, I think there's going to be a distinct advantage.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Toronto obviously has been one of the most inconsistent teams in hockey too, so that'll be another thing that plays into that. But we'll move on to now one that I think is the most interesting when it comes to a lesser seed battling a higher seed: the Hurricanes versus the New York Rangers. Because the Hurricanes have a good defensive scheme with Rob Brind'Amour. The problem is James Reimer and Peter Mrazek aren't the best playoff goalie combo compared to Shesterkin and a future Hall of Famer that you could fall back on if you have to. So I'm wondering what your percentage chance to give the Rangers a chance to upset the Hurricanes would be, which would actually.
So you're saying so you're calling the Hurricanes as the favorite and the Rangers being the upset here on this.
Well, the Hurricanes, the way they position themselves in the season going into the series, would be considered the favorite, being the better team throughout the entire season. Also, with lesser goaltending, being the better team throughout the season, with the names of Mrazek, who's just kind of been, other than 3 years, average in his career. And then Reimer had like 1.5 really great years. And then average. So
I tell you what, I liked Mrazek when he was playing for us. And I was really kind of sad to see him go because I thought he was a pretty decent goalie. I mean, I understand why he left and everything because he was never going to play here.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think he's a pretty decent goalie. Yeah, he's not the most consistent, but I think he's gotten better as he's gotten older. And the more games he plays, I think he's gotten better too. So he's one of those probably late developers. So Oh man, this is a tough one for me
Yeah, that's the
because I
hardest.
think they match up really, really well. And if so you're calling her games, man, I'm gonna say like
And Quinn's done a really good job with the Rangers, just like Brindamore's done great with the Canes carrying that roster.
49.999. How's that? 49.99999.
You think there's a 49.99% chance the Rangers win?
Yeah, because look, if their goaltending gets locks in, and if Lundqvist has some good games,
If
and
he
they're back,
plays, we don't
if
know.
he
Yeah,
plays,
it,
yeah,
they
right,
might
if
be
he
able to
plays.
start. Yeah,
See, that's the other thing too. But even if Sosturkin plays, though, you know what I mean? Like, pretty decent goalie.
oh
So,
yeah,
you
yeah, he's
know,
real. He's real.
it's just their team in front of them is not nearly what the Hurricanes are. You know what I mean? So Hurricanes have a little bit more.
That's because the Hurricanes have more of a mix of offense with guys that can play on the defensive end in their defense, where the um, the Rangers have a solid defense, but they got D'Angelo, who is had his best defensive season this year, but is more offensively inclined. And then they have who's also from the area, by the way, for people that don't know. But and then they have Adam Fox, who is going to develop and probably become very solid on both ends. But right
Yeah,
now
no, yeah,
is
yeah,
best at making the pass out of his zone, but still more consistent on the offensive zone than he is in the defensive zone at his young age. So those guys, obviously Lindgren's Ryan Lindgren, and so he's been meh. And then you have Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba is more your guy that actually can also play in the defensive end,
right, right,
but
right, right.
they kind of overpaid him a little bit. But the so they but they have him. But I like their defense decently. It's just it's not as defensive. It's more like you have Trouba as your fallback guy
Yeah,
when you Fox and D'Angelo aren't having the best game. Where if guys aren't having the best game in Carolina, your fallback guy, especially with Hamilton healthy, is either now it could be Dougie because Dougie's coming back, so he's not even going to be in as much. So if everyone else ain't playing, well, his minutes will just ramp up, and Hood could potentially be your. But then you also have the fallout back guy, and there always ends up being 9 times out of 10. Well, sometimes it's Pesce because he's great at defense, but normally Slade. Jacob
yeah,
Slavin, whenever all else
yeah,
fails, Jacob Slavin just makes a play in the game that captures the defensive momentum. And then the Hurricanes are like, okay, we're good, boys. We're going back now. Everything's
yeah.
fine.
And
Everything's
even
good
though,
in the world now. So,
yeah, and even though Justin Williams is Mr. Playoff is not gonna, I believe he's opted to not return. Right?
um, he was debating and mulling it over. I haven't seen anything official yet. Well,
Okay.
let
So
me try to look it up real quick.
okay, because if he comes back to play, even if he doesn't play in this first like best of five series, because oh man, like I said, I think the Rangers and the Hurricanes match up really well. This is to me the hardest one for me to pick on
Gotcha.
the yeah on the eastern side. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but if Justin Williams plays, man, I'll tell you that really changes the whole game because he's able to be that leader. He's able to be that steady rock back there on the power play. He's able to um, lead your lead your charge. You know, he knows how to play for Ronnie Brindamore, and Rod Brindamore knows how to use him the best. So if he plays, then my percentage from 49.99 goes down to like 17 or 18. But
Yeah,
if he doesn't play, then 49.999.
gotcha. No, I'm looking at it. He had concerns. He just said my biggest concern, maybe the team's biggest concern, is what if there's an outbreak on the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 5 and 7 of us can't play or 10 of us can't play. what happens to the team? Is it a forfeit or do you wait a couple of weeks? That's the main concern that we have. It's not playing the game of hockey because we're all going to go out there and we're all going to give our best to battle for the Stanley Cup. But it would be extremely frustrating having those symptoms and coming down with the virus somehow and not being able to play. At the end of the day, you're handing out the Stanley Cup, he said. This isn't just going out and playing some exhibition game. This is legit. At different circumstances, obviously, but at the end of the day, you're going to get your name on the Stanley Cup and no one will be able to take that away from you. So basically, he wants to go to compete. He wants to go out and compete again. So I think he's going to play. He just cited his concerns, but he's a competitive nature person.
Well, then, okay. Yeah, look, I've never not known him to not step up into the breach. So if he plays, and it sounds like that's going to be the case, then I'm going to drop my percentage down to like 17 or 18.
Yeah, that's a big drop for.
Well, it is, but what I think he's going to bring to the table is going to outweigh, even if New York plays pretty decently,
Gotcha. Yeah, he brings.
Look, it's not going to be. Look, it's not going to be like Carolina's just going to come in there and break out the brooms.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, it's going to be a game or two that the New York's going to win. They're going to at least put up some kind of a fight. But
I completely agree. Yeah, definitely not going to just sweep them out of the water. But I had, because of how good Shesterkin is, and your fallback is Lundqvist, who's a Hall of Famer, and your other fallback is Georgiev, who could be a good platoon starter at least somewhere else, most likely, because he's probably not going to stay there.
Yeah.
After the season, but I gave them a 30% chance because of the goaltending battle. I think the goaltending battle wins with the Rangers over the Canes if I was picking between goaltenders. So I would give them. That's what I think. Sometimes when it comes down to teams too, the Canes sometimes can get themselves in close scoring games. And what team do I trust someone as a dynamic player to step up and just say, no, I'm taking this and score? And that's more Artemi Panarin than anybody. Maybe Svechnikov, but he's still younger. So that's more Artemi Panarin at this point that I will go, yeah, if all else is failing, he's going to say, give me the damn puck and I'm going to end this.
And no, I agree with you because I think if you just match up, I think New York wins that all the way. You know what I mean? Just based off of okay, yeah, you have a backup goalie the backup goalie is going to be a Hall of Famer. But the guy you have sitting out in front, man, I like, and Mrazek, and okay, he's a pretty decent goalie, but he's almost like that Steve Mason kind of guy where he plays really, really well, or no, let me rephrase that. Michael Leighton, where he plays really, really well, but he lets that soft goal in occasionally, and you just, it's hard to come back from those when you just, for no reason, the stupid soft goal goes in, and you're just like, well, sorry about that, guys. No, that's not why you're making the big money, so that you don't, you're supposed to make those saves.
No, I completely agree. But that I put it at 30% because of the goaltending. I didn't want to give him more than that because, yes, I love how Quinn was able to up guys like Strome's game, but Brindamore's just looks so successful bringing every player's game up since he's went to Carolina for the most part, including the goaltenders that have been on
Ronnie Brindamore was the hardest working guy, and so I imagine that a lot of his players have learned how to be hard-working players now.
Exactly. But we're now moved to our another conference's 6 versus 11 matchup, which is the Predators versus the Coyotes. This is a team in the Predators who Pecorine really is coming off of his first year, actually really struggling a little bit in the league. But Soros stepped up for them, of course. Then the Coyotes had Darcy Kemper playing at the beginning of the season like a Vezina candidate, got injured, Antti Ranta's still a good, very good goaltender, actually, and stepped up for them because of their tandem. So this is a team that the 6-11 probably isn't too easy to pick because they play very similar, too. Not very offensively inclined teams that really play from the defense up, and teams that sometimes rely on that big save at times, too, or a big defensive play to spike their momentum to get going the other way. Those are how each of those teams play. And the Coyotes, I don't think would have been an 11 seed if they had their tandem all year, where it's nothing against Ranta. It's more not having Ranta and Kemper really hurts you compared to having Ranta. And I can't remember when Kemper was out who else they had as his backup. But that obviously is not the icing on the cake like those two are.
Yeah.
So I'm interested
I
to
understand.
see what you would have your percentage at for that.
I'll tell you, I think Arizona is like this close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Tocchet being out in the desert, I think has been a good thing for Arizona. But just not seeing it this year. I'm just not feeling it this year. I just think the Predators are going to be a little too much, especially because the Coyotes have very little playoff experience.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? And where did the Predators go last year? They went to the conference finals or something, right? And they lost to, right?
They went
So
deep
I'm
this year. So
yeah.
got fired and Hines came in.
Yeah, but still, they went pretty deep in the playoffs last year. So I mean, it's and they didn't really lose that many people. So they're bringing a pretty good team back. Now they did change their coach. What, in October when Laviolette was fired or something like that?
I don't think it was that early. I think it was later because I think it was more.
December.
Yeah, I think it was more around then because I feel like Hines
Okay.
got January.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a big shakeup, but that kind of rejuvenated the team because their record after he took over the team was a little bit different than when Laviolette was coach. You know what I mean? And he was using the players a little bit differently. And so I'm not giving Arizona much of a chance. It's great that they made it, and it's going to be good to see that they're going to get to play some games and their players are going to get some playoff experience, and that's great. But yeah, I'm in that single digit kind of thing.
Yeah,
9%. Yeah, let's go 9.
I really like Pekka, and I loved him his whole career, and I'm not even close to where Pirlo's at on him thinking he's done. I think he might be better
Really?
off moving. I think he might be better off moving at a certain point because eventually, when you have a bad year, your time fizzles out somewhere, kind of like Fleury did in Pittsburgh. But I think if he goes to the right scenario, and I always said it could be Carolina with the way Brind'Amour runs his defensive scheme. If Pekka goes to Carolina, his numbers are probably going to be very good again because you keep the puck away from your goalie a lot in Carolina, and he just has to step up at certain moments, and Pekka Rinne can still do that. And I think he's going to show that in this playoffs. The issue is Darcy Kemper was also a Vezina candidate this year if he didn't get injured. So if he also shows it, that's going to be a grueling back.
Is he back?
And then it's going to be he's supposed to be back from all things.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
I've heard so. Because that was the whole talk about how they're much better suited for the playoffs now that you got. Yeah, he resumed skating the season on the horizon. That was 3 weeks ago.
There you go.
And then 7 out the battle of goaltenders looms large and
there you go.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I actually look for the Predators to be.
They have guys that step up in the postseason. It's all going to depend who steps up scoring. Because look at Clayton Keller, had a great rookie season.
Right, exactly.
Struggled the last 2 years. If he shows what he's really made of, that's different. You got Taylor Hall, who right before the stoppage finally started looking good in Arizona. So it's like both of these teams, have guys that really started looking good before the stoppage, but the Predators translated to their record because they were a winning record in the last 10 where the Coyotes were even. But
Yeah.
both of the teams got people going. That's why, for me, I still think the Preds will win because Pekka is a beast, and you got Soros who played great this year as well. Where Kemper's coming back from an injury, so I can't expect him to play Vezina as he could because of how good he is, but you just can't expect it necessarily coming off of an injury to come back and right away just turn on especially in the postseason, just turn on the jet. So
And
that's
especially
why
he's going to have limited game time too, because he's probably, especially if you're coming back injured, you're not going to be, okay, you're going to play the next 6 games in a row. And we already know that these playoff games or these best of 5 series is going to include multiple goalies for each team.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And you have to take that into consideration. You really do. But so I still look at the Predators to be this to me isn't even close.
Yeah, I gave them, since you gave them a 9, I gave them because of, depending on Kemper, it's an if, but Ranta played very well too. I'll give them an up to a 12 because you got Taylor Hall, who's one of the better players in the league when he's going at his best.
And he's getting better. He's getting better, boy, I'll tell you.
And you got Clayton Keller, who maybe this time period off will do him the most justice and kind of get him back in line again. So.
See, this is the thing, man. This is the whole thing about all of this. For the first time ever, we're getting players that are coming back into the playoffs that are healthy. Now, look, I understand that they've all had that 4-month break where for the first time in their lives, this is the longest they've ever gone without skating. Okay? But for the first time ever, we're going to have guys coming into the playoffs fully healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's not going to be, it's going to be, what a horrible, wonderful, delicious problem to have. Like you have all these great players. Who am I going to play tonight? Okay, I'll play this guy tonight. Oh, okay, I'll play this guy tonight. Oh, I'll play this. I mean, what a wonderful problem to have. So I think that's definitely going to affect that to how teams are going to play. I think having that number of players is going to allow the star players and the bigger name players to kind of sit back a little bit, maybe, and see how the younger guys go. And maybe, see, that's why it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how some teams go. It's going to be interesting when they release the lineups, and see what our lineups are going to be for that first round or those first couple games, and see what the lineups are going to be like. And then I think we can really get into the meat of, 9% for Coyotes and 12% for you. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think now we're moving to another hosting team, the Toronto Maple Leafs as the 8th seed versus the 9th seeded Columbus Blue Jackets. Of course, the Blue Jackets are coached, like you said, by John Tortorella. The Maple Leafs, I almost call them the Marlies. The Maple Leafs are coached by Sheldon Keefe. So they don't have the more chutzpah coach that people remember, but Sheldon Keefe is also a pretty good head coach in his own right. It's just not the name brand of John Tortorella. So
that's and it's not Mike Babcock either.
Yeah, and there's that. But both of these teams were on a 1-game winning streak at the end, but coming into the draw, Toronto was a little bit better. They were 5-4, and then 3-4 and 3 for the Blue Jackets. So like the Blue Jackets were inconsistent. Toronto was just solid, 1 game over 500. So they're going to be interesting because Toronto was one of the most inconsistent teams in hockey. Yet they have a very good roster that, in my opinion, just continues to underperform. Not necessarily individual. Not individuals on that roster always underperform. It's the roster as a whole underperforms what they have.
Oh no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. And that's That's why I think Babcock got fired, because he was not able to wrangle the amount of talent in that room, and he was not able to get the message out across to get all those guys playing on the same page. Okay, and so now there's a new message coming out in the room. Okay, and it's going to be real interesting to see how he wrangles all that talent. And quite honestly, I think if given the opportunity, Toronto could be dangerous.
Yeah, that's all. Obviously, they have a very solid goalie there, Frederick Anderson, as well. Their issue has been the most of their inconsistency of play has been because they got Rasmus Sandin, who's a beast of a young defenseman, and then Muzzin and Riley. But beyond those three, they do not have the most consistent. They have Tyson. I left out Barry, but those guys haven't all played consistently in their own end this year, where
Yeah,
they played good. If you look at them statistically, where CC's actually been probably since they got him. He's probably their second best stay at home, straight
yeah,
up stay at home guy. With Travis Dermott played pretty well this year, but for me, it's going to depend on how well their young defense plays in the playoffs because you got Riley as a youngster, you got Sandin as a youngster. Muzzin has experience with the Kings. Dermott doesn't have experience in the playoffs coming off of a good year. And then Tyson Barrie has some experience in the playoffs, I believe. So you have, but he also didn't have a good year, is coming off of a down year for himself this year. So
right.
coming into a contract year. So he it's going to be interesting. I do think Toronto has a better chance though, because that's why I said coming into a contract year. Because I think when someone like him has a down year, even though the rest of your defense is young, they have played well. He's going to kind of be pissed and say, I had a down year. I'm coming into a contract year. This is the postseason. Let me really step up and take it here. And then you have two veterans in Muzzin and Barry that can carry the youngsters and be the leaders rather than just one, which makes a huge difference because Barry was struggling this year. And that's why I it's not really an upset for the Blue Jackets, but I would give the Blue Jackets only about like a I would say they have a 25 to 27% chance because of Torts and Corpy. Torts Corpy is a good goalie that was playing really well before injury as well. And then Elvis Merzlikins, who we knew could have, because of the way he goaltended, had a chance to be a solid
Yeah,
backup in the league, but then
yeah,
has shown he might now have a chance to be a solid, at least platoon starter in the league, if not a starter in the right system. So with that, I have to give them a 25% chance. Also, their defense has played very well this year, led by Seth Jones when they don't have as many name brand folks back there as the Maple Leafs do. So they got Seth Jones and then they got Rowinski, but beyond that, they've had guys like Harrington step up at times for that, Gavrinkov, Gabriel Carlson, Glendet, like all these different cats have kind of stepped up for them. And Ryan Murray's kind of settled into a different role for himself, not becoming what they thought he could become, but becoming decent. So that's why I had to give him at least that chance, but that still gives the Maple Leafs a very high percent chance of winning at their home.
yeah. Do we know if Durbinski's going to be playing?
If who?
If Durbinski's going to be playing
Oh, Brandon
for
Dubinsky.
Cup? Yeah, if he's going to be playing.
That's a very, very, very.
Because he's on injured reserve. Well, he was. So if he plays,
That adds like a face-off guy to your like fourth
yeah, yeah,
line.
yeah. Look, I'm going to go out there and say it again. I said it with Edmonton, and I'm going to say it with Toronto. I think Toronto is going to have a distinct advantage playing in their building, playing on their ice, sitting on their bench, going back to their locker room. To me, I think that's going to be a distinct advantage. And I don't care if there's no crowd or not. I think that's still going to be an advantage. Now, Here's an idea. I wonder if
I don't know
maybe.
if Kaminsky will play because it says from April. This is from April 20th, but it says his injury was deemed a chronic condition by general manager
Okay.
So I don't know if
Okay.
they're going
Because
to.
they do have him and they have Josh Anderson are both on injured reserve.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Josh Anderson's another guy that adds a lot of physicality for you in the playoffs that also can pot some goals.
yeah. But if those two players were playing for Columbus, that would probably increase their chances for one. But
So what
yeah.
do you got like a cool 8 to 5% for?
All right. So what did you say? You said
I
what?
I said about I'm going to put it at I'll put it at exactly 25 because I just believe with what Lincoln's really impressed me this year, and I already liked Corpy. That gives them a decent chance with how good their coaching is. But I also love Sheldon Keefe. He's just not talked about as much, but he is doing a pretty good job. I just feel for some reason Toronto's team, for whatever reason, just wasn't able to put it consistent together. And I don't even know what. They're like an inexplicable team why they weren't able to do that. But the layoff for them is probably going to be best because of the roster they have, and now they go kind of fill it in.
And well, it also gives the coach a chance to come in and instill more of his system, because he was basically just kind of taking over for Babcock there, you know what I mean? And so it gives him an opportunity to put more of his system into play and more of what he wants to do instead of just kind of, okay, well, you guys have been playing under this for a little while, so we're just going to kind of try and do this on the fly. Well, now he has an opportunity to instill his system. So I think Toronto is going to surprise people, I'll go 12.5%.
All right. Well, that'll move us into our another 8-9 matchup before we go to the 7 and 10s to wrap it up, which is the Flames against the Jets. And this is the one that, depending on how you explain it, because of how the Flames roster structure lays out to the Jets roster structure, could be deemed an upset, potentially being an 8 and 9 seed. Because if we're honest, Connor Hellebuck had a carry Price year, and if he didn't have a carry Price year, the Jets ain't in this 2014
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Likely.
yeah.
Like they didn't have like if Connor Hellebuck went down like Darcy Kemper did or something like that, the Jets likely also are not in this 24 because they didn't have a fallback option of Antti Ranta or when you want to give guys rest like Boston has Yaroslav Halak or even us and Brian Elliott, they didn't necessarily have the fallback option. I think the Jets, I'm trying to remember who their damn backup is because he really doesn't freaking play any. So,
Broussard?
is it Laurent Broussard too?
Yeah,
Laurent Broussard?
yeah. But,
Okay.
look.
Because he only played like 20 games. That's why I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
remembering
yeah,
backup doesn't really
yeah.
play. They just
Uh, oh, man.
But that's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, they definitely couldn't ride him because if you look at his stats were above threes goals against. So like Hellbuck needs to be their dude. That's why. I mean, this is an interesting series. I think the Flames have, when you look at them, the funny thing is the Flames got ranked 8th with point percentage, and the Jets got ranked 9th. But I think when the season ended, by doing it by just the points and not the percentage and all that with the difference of games, I
Yeah.
believe the Jets were actually one ahead of the Flames, not the other way around before they switched it to points percentage because of difference of game. So those teams are pretty much even. So in terms of standing base, also just separated by one literal point. But the difference here is defense is going to play because you have it's going to be interesting because you have TJ Brody, who's also came in and has an expiring contract, but he also played pretty solid this year, so he doesn't have to show like reprove himself or anything like that. But they got Gustafson, they got Forbert, who's a pretty good stay-at-home guy that might be more substantial in the playoffs because having those physical defensemen normally play more in the postseason than it doesn't. If you're allowed to hit and do all that type of stuff, because we're not sure what all the in the trenches stuff they'll allow you to do entirely.
Plus, their D is pretty big, man.
Yeah, Hannafin's a big guy. Stone's a good stay at home. Valimaki played solid when he was up, but I don't know if he's able to come back because I know he had a knee injury. I'm not sure what the time, what the stand.
Yeah.
And then Rasmus Anderson's good. Where you look at Winnipeg and it's okay, we got Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk that everybody remembers off the top of their head, and then it's kind of no casual fan's going to remember anyone else on Winnipeg's defense. That's what worries me. That's why he had to step up so much on it. You got Kornhoff, who's kind of in nowhere's land now, and you got Dylan DeMello, who did step up. I should say Dylan DeMello when they got him. He played good this year, so bringing him in is a good guy that can help on your defensive end and all that. But Pullman, Niku, Spiza, former Flyer, you don't have the best pool there to pick from. So.
Not when you look at the defense that the Flames are putting out there. You know what I mean? Giordano, Brody, and then when you also mentioned Anderson as well too. So I mean, I'm not even to me. This is not even really. I wouldn't even consider this an 8-9. Does that make sense? Like I just think that Calgary is the much better team on this side, and I just don't think that the Jets are going to be able to do much of anything.
So, what's your percentage chance then that the Jets would have to?
And look, I understand because of how they ended the season and the number of points and how they were ranked and everything like that. And I think that let's see, I'll go 33%.
33%.
Just because they're 8-9.
Gotcha.
You know, and the layoff is going to help everybody, and we'll see. We'll see.
I was a bit ahead of you because of everyone knows, well, most people know how much I am of a goaltender guy. I really like Rittich and what he's been able to do as a good cheap option, but he hasn't shown as much yet. Connor Hellebuyck's a Vezina candidate, so I gave him a 2-point bump and put him at a 35.
Okay.
But I wrote that down.
Good.
35.
That's pretty tight, though. That's pretty tight. So that's pretty close.
Yeah, and then we're moved now to another team we don't want to lose in the first round because we also don't want them to get the first overall pick. The 7th versus 10, Panthers and Islanders. What do you think is the likelihood? A lot of people do not give the Panthers any chance to really upset the Islanders. So what do you think the likelihood is?
Well, we talked about this. We talked about this on our show, or the show we did with me, you, and Perlo. We all thought, from what I understood, that unless Bob basically stood on his head or plays relatively Vezina Trophy self, that there's really no chance for Florida. And we pretty much all called the Islanders, I believe, is what all of our predictions were. And I'm still going with that. I don't think Florida, unless because of him being a little bit more mature now and kind of realizing that, hey, you know, he needs to be a little bit more of a team player and not be quite so radical. And if he plays into himself, I don't know, though. I just don't think that the Panthers have enough defense, and I don't. Even though I think Perlo said that they match up speed-wise, I don't know. The Islanders just seem a little bit more too in depth. So I would give Florida 8%. 8% chance of an upset.
Yeah, I would be right around that with you. I put them at 5 just because of goaltending. I mean, unless like I love Bob, but you need to step
I
up
agree.
this year. And like you said, obviously bringing in Keith Yandel was a very good decision when you could bring a veteran like him into Florida. But Strawman kind of struggled a bit this year as a veteran. Matheson played all right, but didn't play as good as he could as a player. Either. Like he's a better player than what he played this year. That's the way I'll put it.
Right, and most
then
of those
Aaron,
guys are going to be out, and most of them guys are going to be out after this year too.
and then
So
Aaron Ekblad played like Aaron, pretty similar to how Aaron Ekblad
yeah.
So he was fine. But yeah, I would agree with you on that. I put them at a 5%. But we'll move on to our final matchup now in the West, which is with the Canucks, another goaltender that I think they re-signed, but is going into his contract year with Jacob Markstrom, and the Wild with Devin Dubnyk, who I believe has next year on his contract too. But this would be a great playoffs for him going into the final year of his contract to help supplant himself going into the final year as well. So where do you put those guys and the teams as a whole coming in with the chances for upsets there?
Man, I'll tell you, this is going to be one of the ones where I actually want to watch this one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's not many of the. I mean, aside obviously from the Flyers, I want to watch that one. But one of the other matchups that I want to watch is this one because to me, I think this is too close to call. Like I'm gonna say I can't. Both teams have good scoring. Both teams have pretty good goalies. I'm gonna. Oh man, 49.99.
You're giving it that high percentage.
Yeah, 40. Well, because the teams are so evenly matched, and if one goalie gets hot, or if one player or two players get hot, or a line gets hot, and then I think then that's going to sway the difference. So that's why I'll go 49.9.
Gotcha. I also looked. Devin Dubnyk's is expiring after next year, where Mark is after this year. So this is a big playoffs for Jake because if he has first of all, I don't think Vancouver's letting him go if he has a great playoffs for them. They're gonna find a way to fit that into the salary somehow. They don't care if it's staying the same the next couple of years.
Right.
Some way that's gonna happen. But the difference here is if they do that though and he steps up, what becomes scary for that team is they got even more talent potentially coming in because you got Trey Bate in a pretty good young goalie in Thatcher Demko. If Markstrom steps up and you lock him up, because what the heck are you going to keep him for standing behind Markstrom until he's like 20? Like you're not going to just keep him buried in as a backup when you could probably get some stuff for him. So that actually they're kind of in a good problem there. But yeah, I mean that's a very you're exactly spot on with that, though. That's a very close series.
Because Markson looks like he's on injured reserve.
Is he still? I thought he was coming back, though.
Oh, I don't know. So, is he still? Because if he's not going to play,
because when I had the roster up, it didn't have him listed as
really
injured anymore.
I thought I saw it as him being on injured reserve. Now we know that. So does that mean if guys are on LTIR, does that and? Okay, so a question is if they're on LTIR, they're still part of the team, right? And so even though now we've had a 4-month break, most guys are off LTIR, or they're just coming off, or like some of these guys are still potentially on injured reserve. If they come off injured reserve, will they be able to come into the lineup? Because they're still part of the team, right? The only people Okay. So the only guys that aren't going to be allowed to be part of the team are the people that aren't signed for this year.
Yes, that's the way that I look
Okay.
at it. Here we go.
Okay.
Jacob Markstrom captain. That's great. Got the upset by fans for anybody who cares. It's not really what I was looking for. It says he could return.
Could.
No. Here it is. Jim Benning said that Markstrom is ready to return to action if the NHL is to play. So yeah, Jim Benning, their GM, said that he can return. So yeah, he's going to be fine.
Like I said, this is the one I would want to watch. That's not Philadelphia against any other team. This is the one that I'd want to watch. Because this is where, yeah.
I'm kind of around you on that. I put it at, I haven't gone as much with the decimals, so I put it at a cool even 48% to win. I haven't been as much of a decimal.
Well, I'm just doing that to be, you know.
But no, I think that's going to be a great series. That has the potential to be the best, one of the best battles in the playing round.
Yeah, exactly. And whoever wins that series, see, Perlo and I talked about this like a couple weeks ago, where if Vancouver wins this series, look to them to be one of the favorites coming out of the deeper run out of the playoffs. You know what I mean? Yeah, because they're going to have momentum. You know, and that's the other thing too. That's why.
That's the other thing I brought up.
Yep.
Demko.
Yep. That's why I think it's very important for. That's why I really wanted Boston first for Philadelphia, because I think that game right there it needs to be a statement game for us, because we lost to those guys. That was the last game we played, and we lost to them. And for exactly your point of why we're playing Tampa Bay last, because that should be the last little heel into the, you know, that should be the last little revenge heel into the back there, you know, like, yeah, we beat you, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, well, the worst you're going to do is go 2-1 and then have a chance to, if you lose to Tampa, bring momentum by the time you have to play them again, because that would be until probably the conference
finals. That would be.
Yeah.
I think that would be the only way we would see any one of the top four teams, is if it would be the conference finals.
Yeah, so that's not going to be the biggest thing. But anyway, thanks for joining for the video today. This was great picking the
man.
Playing round.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
I don't know if you had anything you wanted to share and any handles you wanted to throw out.
Well, thank you. Like I said, it's an honor even being on the same screen with you guys. I feel very blessed to even be here. So thank you very much. You can reach me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Look for the website. SteelFlyers.com is coming out here real soon. That's coming real soon. Also, be looking for the third episode of the Steel Flyers podcast, probably coming out in the next day or two.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely be checking that out. And also for us, you can catch the podcast at True_Philly Sport on Twitter and True Philadelphian Sportscast spelled out on Instagram. We're going to be making a Facebook soon. I want to kind of attach that more directly to the website. So when we finish that, that's more when I want to come out with a Facebook. And then at JJBoer26 is my Twitter. So you can find it there. I do stuff for the Flyers, nitty gritty, pub sports.
Yeah, don't you got an article coming out here soon? Here, didn't you just do a video for the prospects? Man, those were good videos.
I had a video on Tanner Lazinski.
That was good.
On our website for Flyers Nitty Gritty. So check that out. Anybody who's into prospect talk. But this is going to be the end of this True Philadelphian Sportscast, The Grittiest Take episode. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend and start to their week. Peace out, everybody.